everybody, it's Haley with WFSU Public Media, and we've been celebrating our summer challenge, Mountains, Hills, and Mounds, all summer long. And today, we're going to be learning a little bit more about mounds, because we're here at Lake Jackson Mound State Park to learn more about them. And luckily, we have Misty Penton, bioarchaeologist and tradition keeper of the Muscogee Nation of Florida. So before we learn about the mounds, Misty is going to teach us all about having respectful behavior for visiting such a sacred place. Welcome, Misty. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited to answer some of these questions. I mean, if you live in the Southeast, you've probably seen these mounds and wondered what they were. And I'm looking forward to sharing this one at Lake Jackson, and then maybe, having you be interested in going all around the state and seeing other mounds. There are some beautiful parks out here. But when we go to mounds, just like when we go to any important or sacred or special place, there's ways that we have to behave, right? First and foremost, we have to go there with a good heart. We have to go there ready to learn and ready to understand what somebody else lived like. And that is one of the most exciting things, to see how someone else lived. And so before you come on to these sacred sites, make sure you're ready. Make sure you've taken the time to get your heart straight. You have a good mood and an excited attitude. And if you would like, we're going to do what I do when I come out to a sacred site, and I can share it with you, and Haley's going to join me.
Yeah.
Would you like to take some of this tobacco, and we will do a thank you to the site and the people here?
Just take a little pinch?
Just a little pinch.
Okay.
Okay. And then what I do and what we normally do is we'll hold it in our hands and maybe a little to our heart, because we're going to think about, what do I want to do while I'm here? What is my heart and my intentions for being here? So my intentions are, I want to thank the ancestors who were here at this site, and I want them to know how special it is for them to share this with us today. And I am looking forward to telling their story in a way that I hope will make them honored. And we will tread lightly and leave only our footsteps behind. Mado. And then I breathe. All that air from my heart and my intentions. And then I just sprinkle it into the earth. And then 4 times, Haley, we say, Mado, 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 Mado. And that thanks them all. And now we are ready. Thank you so much for letting us share with you.
Thank you, Misty. That was beautiful.
Mado.
Mado. So now that we've made our offering here at Lake Jackson Mound State Park, we're going to learn a little bit more about the mounds that are here, and Misty's going to tell us all about them. So we've been learning about mountains, we've been learning about hills, and now we need to know a little bit more about these mounds. Did they just grow here over geological time? How did they get here? What are they?
That's such a great question, Haley. So again, if you walk around, if you have toured around the Southeast, you probably notice we don't have a lot of mountains. But the Creek, the Muscogee people, the people in the Southeastern Ceremonial Complex, which built these mounds, actually lived in these river areas, right? And the river areas have meander zones. They are great for crops. That's why we actually have considered the breadbasket of the whole Southeastern United States right here. But imagine if you're living in these very fertile areas, what do you think happens when it floods? There's no Corps of Engineers dams. So the community, when they started getting a lot of people, they recognized that in order to stay dry, in order to stay out of the floods, out of the water, they would build mounds, right? And everyone likes to get together, and ceremony time, 4 times a year during the agriculture time, is when they would come. And believe it or not, the way these mounds were built is every family from all around these ceremonial centers would bring a big basket of dirt from their home. That's how they were built. And the mounds would get larger and larger in terms of the temple mounds where the leaders would live, because the leaders are appointed for a lifetime. but then you'll see another layer added to that mound, and that's because when that leader would pass, they would have another leader and another layer to that mound.
So these are built. They didn't just show up. People
That's right.
came together and their community built these mounds over time and added layers and layers and layers to
Over
create them.
hundreds of years. I
Wow.
know, it's really special, and all of it done through people with good hearts wanting to come together and making this central place their own.
Wow. So it's really like the heart of the community was right here.
Absolutely, absolutely. There were always a few people that would stay here to make sure all the ceremonies got run and all the grounds were kept up, but at least 4, sometimes 6 times a year, people from all over would gather because we all like to get to know each other, we all like to see each other, and of course, that's when marriages are arranged too, so there's always cause for celebration.
That's amazing. Well, let's go up and talk a little bit more about them from the top of the mound.
How exciting, let's do it.
So we've made it here at the top of the mound at Lake Jackson, and Misty's going to tell us a little bit more about how this mound grew and why it's so big and the significance of that.
Well, first of all, it's right on the banks of Lake Jackson, which in and of itself is a pretty exciting lake. It used to be called the Mysterious Waters or the Disappearing Waters. And that is pretty interesting in terms of having a mound nearby. That's a site of power. It's a site that actually is connected to a different world, okay? But remember, if you were on top of this mound, it would be clear. It would be clear everywhere around it.
So you could see the lake from here.
Exactly. The community would have made sure there was no trees anywhere, which is kind of hard to imagine, but you need to use your imagination. That's always fun. And they could see the water from here, and anyone that was traveling on the water could see this as the back of the turtle, right? A safe place, because all of us Native Americans think of this place as the back of the turtle island, right?
Just like on your necklace,
exactly,
right?
like this. So if they were to see a big mound from, say, the river where they're traveling or the lake where they're traveling, they would know that that was a community that believed like they believed, a safe place to be, particularly if there was a flood, right, or rough weather coming in. And the other thing in terms of, we talked a little bit about it, the reason this one is so high is because this ceremonial center was extremely important for over 600 years. And when you do what's called a stratigraphy, when you look at the bank of the mound and you see all the different layers, right?
Okay.
You can see that there were at least 6, maybe 7 layers to this mound, which means that many leaders had lifetime appointments to this position.
So did those leaders live up here?
They did. They were here full time, and they were the ones that the people all around that had their own gardens for their own communities would actually send food here for these people because what they did was so important. For example, Ahilesaya, a maker of medicine, they were literally responsible for the weather. So you would want to make sure that those people got food, got plenty of corn, got plenty of beans and squash.
Because they helped to take care of the rest of the community.
That's right. And then, of course, we talked about this is the place to come for parties, okay? So you want to make sure there's plenty of food here when you come to have a feast, because that shows that there's plenty to share with all the people.
Thank you so much, Misty, for sharing all of this about these very special mounds here in the southeastern region of the United States. I have one more question.
Yeah.
Are these the only mounds? I think you mentioned other mounds that are in the area, right?
There are. Okay, so there's Letchworth Mound, which is actually very interesting because it was a little bit earlier than this one. And that mound actually was where the people, when there weren't so many people, would come together just for ceremony. And so those mounds were built in the same way, but there wasn't what we call a lifetime appointment of like a priest or a chief to stay there full time. So it's another interesting thing to look at. Crystal River Archaeological Mounds is fascinating because it has a whole bunch of mounds that are largely intact, and they're on that river, which is how how we were using the transportation, basically like the
Like a
interstates,
highway,
right?
yeah.
Exactly. And so imagine if you were on these riverways, you're seeing these mounds, and what are they to you? They're port cities, right? They're places
They're
where
those
you know you can
landmarks.
stop, you can
Yeah.
get a meal, the people are probably going to understand you, even if they may have a slightly different language, you have the same worldview, right? So, monumental architecture. You have the pyramids in Egypt, we have mounds here.
That's amazing. So we definitely encourage you all to come visit your local mounds in your area. Just remember to come with
A good heart
a good heart
and an open mind.
and an open mind. Thank you so much for sharing with us today, Misty. And remember, friends, you can learn more about mounds by visiting this site, and you can also participate in our summer challenge, Mountains, Hills, and Mounds, for the rest of the summer by checking out wfsu.org/summer challenge. See you later.
Mado, which means sacred thanks with a good heart.
Mado.